and I was able to buy my first car when I was 15, and then my second car when I was 15.
When are you allowed to start driving up there?
16. So I renovated. It was a 67 Cougar. It was green and
2 cars before you even.
That's funny.
yeah, it was a little
You
bit.
bought a house at 18,
But
right?
yeah,
Yeah.
Wow. Welcome to the Reimagining Home Services podcast. I'm Brady Jolly with my partner and COO, Scott Sharrock. We lead a rapidly growing plumbing, HVAC, electrical, and water cleanup business, and we're on a mission to run a $100 million company. Join us as we walk through the challenges, decisions, and lessons that come with that journey. Welcome back to the Reimagining Home Services podcast. Man, I'm so pumped to have my friends on the podcast today. You guys are the second guests we've ever had, second and third, I guess. These guys came all the way from Canada to visit our shop with a bunch of their team. I've got Brian and Connor Williams from Ashton. Say it again, Ashton Plumbing
Heating and Air.
Ashton Plumbing Heating and Air. Me and Connor have been in the same peer group, Peabody group, for a number of years now, and I've just learned so much from you guys. So I just want to dig in and hear about your story. I thought maybe, Brian, if you wanted to kick us off and tell us about how this all got started, how you got into the business, and then we can talk about how Connor made his way in as well.
sure. Well, thanks a lot. We're happy to be here and having great experience seeing your wonderful operation, and it's just fantastic. We're just so honored to be here. Back getting started. My father was an immigrant, came over to Canada in 1957 as a plumber by trade, and he learned his trade back in the old country there and worked for Lever Brothers, which is Sunlight Soap, and worked in the factory there and moved to Canada. Had a chance to work at a new shopping mall that was being built in Vancouver as a plumber, and got to do the mechanical systems there, and then he stayed on there in the maintenance department, and then worked his way up in later years to running mechanical operations for a couple big shopping centers for them through renovations and things like that. Did well, and I used to go with my dad all the time to the mall, and he'd have to go in on Sunday, something would break or whatever, and I'd be the sort of gopher, and then we'd go for breakfast or something after that. And then fast forward a little bit, I was around 14. He built a new house for his family, and he was getting too old to do the plumbing, so he hired one of the contractors that worked at the shopping malls to help. So I was his apprentice, and just as a young kid, I was just helping out. And then that particular guy contacted my dad and said, why didn't Brian get a job at a plumbing wholesaler? So had the opportunity to, amongst being a Dickie D ice cream salesman at 11 years old and working at a hotel full time at 14, every day after school I would go there from 2 till 10:30, Monday to Thursday, and then
At what age?
14.
Wow.
And then we had I worked my way up from room service waiter to banquets. And then Friday nights I would work 7 p.m. to 3 a.m. and Saturdays was 6 p.m. to 2:30. And then Sundays was an easy day, noon to 8:30.
That's crazy.
And then still going to high school and as well. And I was able to buy my first car when I was 15. And then my second car when I was 15.
When are you allowed to start driving up there?
16. So I renovated. It was a 67 Cougar. It was green and
2 cars before you even.
That's funny.
yeah, it was a little
You
bit.
bought a house at 18,
But
right?
yeah,
Yeah.
Wow.
met my wife at high school, and then we bought our first house. It was a Mustang 65 Fastback and a 67 Cougar, and it had both the same color blue.
Nice.
And I was smart back then. I put one license plate from each car on each car, so I was able to drive them to school with only bought insurance for one. And got caught with no license plate one time, but I argued. I said, well, the plate must have fell off. So anyways, I got lucky I had the right car insured when I got picked up. But I'm not a crook, but it was just a thing I did. Anyways, at 18,
Thing
or
I did,
17,
I like
18, we bought the house, and anyways, my dad's friend recommended I get a job at plumbing wholesaler. So, and then at the same time, I should go to a trade school to take a class, a 6-month pre-apprenticeship class. So the class was full, so I signed up, got a job at the wholesaler. 6 months to the day, I worked my way up, and I became the head receiver for the plumbing supplier. And then I got a phone call from my mom that I'd been accepted. Someone had dropped out of the school, so I had to resign the same day.
Oh no!
And then went on to plumbing school. Family friend got me a job with a friend of his. Went on and worked for a small mechanical firm, did design build work for plumbing and HVAC. And by second year, I was running my own truck. And by third year, I basically brought more revenue to the company than my boss. So my boss approached me to become a partner.
Wow.
And that went on for 2 years in negotiating, and they just kept kicking me down the road. So I talked with my wife, Julie, and her family and my family, and we went and saw an accountant, and we said, look, if they're not going to make a decision, you should. So I bid on a maintenance contract for a government maintenance buildings of a couple, maybe about 60 buildings. And so I bid on that. My father and I went to his friend's house who was in charge of maintenance for all these places. So he said, look, kid, you should take a run at this. So I joined the Masons Lodge. He was a Mason, so I wound up becoming a Freemason back then. I'm not supposed to talk about that, but yeah.
I was going to say,
it's kind of under the table, but yeah, we'll talk about that another day. But we took a bid at it, and that was on Sunday. Went to his house, worked on the number, and then the bid closed on the Thursday. And back then I had a pager, and I was working at my boss's house, and the pager went off at 3:01. Called Bill Harvey at BC Housing. I called him. He says, "You got the job." And I says,
"Nice."
Oh shit! When do I start? This is Monday, and this is Thursday. So I was working at my boss's house, putting a hot tub in for them. So I packed up my tools and went home and had a shower. Drove back to their home, knocked on the door, and his wife's face says, "What are you doing here?" And her face dropped. And I said, "I need to talk to you guys." Says, "Oh no," and they knew. And so went in and got there at 6, got home about 12:30 from their house, and
how many beers did you have?
A few cocktails in. Well, just straight beers. Back in Canada, it was just straight beers. But anyways, we told my wife. I got home and woke her up and says, "Oh, got good news. We're going to be partners with them." And she says, "We'll talk about it in the morning when you sober up." So we in the morning we decided that because they wanted to set up 2 companies, unionize one and a non-union, and they wanted 49% of my new company. Anyways, we just said, let's try it ourselves. So on Thursday we had $10,000. No, we had $5,000 we had 10,000. We borrowed 5,000. My wife worked at a bank. I went out Thursday night and bought a van, and Saturday morning I got the racking put in it.
Wow.
Monday afternoon I got variety signs in Richmond, put new vinyl letters on. The first guy to ever have vinyl letters on a truck.
What year was this, Brian?
1986. And
was this Ashton?
Yeah.
This is Ashton.
And so we needed a name. So people go, "What are you going to call yourself?" I says, "Well," so Julie and I sat down with an atlas and found we were both from England originally. So we just looked at a town that was close to where we were both from. So she was from Manchester, Bolton area. We were from Liverpool area. And there was a town in between called Ashton, and it started with an A. So it's clean.
Phone book days,
first
right?
in the phone book. You got to be first in the phone book. So Ashton was born, and then my phone rang the next day for unplug a toilet for a commercial client, a big commercial client. Wound up, Connor just did a renovation in his home last year, and still, 40 years later, and started rolling. And then my guy, started working at the government there. My guy quit his job and he went to another government place. So he moved over there, and they said, "Well, bring your trades with you." So I went over and I fixed a airline in the works yard for $230, and
Pretty good.
yeah, not
230
bad.
back then. Yeah.
And probably last year we probably did with that one particular client. We still have probably did $5 million worth of
No way.
commercial work. We're still their
Your
client.
first. Wow.
Yeah, and the guy that I was dealing with there, he was a maintenance tech. Worked his way up to the really high level and CEO of the city.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, and but I met him on a Saturday, and it was a leak in the mayor's office. I fixed it myself, and he goes, I shook his hand for taking a chance on me, and he says, "Brian, you just show up when you say, keep your word, and you'll be here as long as you want to be here." And I'm still there.
Here you are. How many years later? That's unbelievable.
Almost 40 with them.
Wow.
Yeah, so that
Okay.
kind of got us up on plane.
So there's a lot there that I want to talk about, but I think I'd like to hear then, now you guys are sitting here, and let's just talk about real quick. Why don't you, Connor, give us the size of your business,
Sure.
Financials, as far as revenue, if you're comfortable sharing it, employee count, that sort of thing. And then I want to come back to some of the things you talked about, Brian.
Sure, yeah. So we still do commercial maintenance and project work, and residential, obviously. Total company, I think last year was like $33 million. We have 110 employees roughly. It's about a 50-50 split between commercial and residential. The origin story he just told is really important, because everything he talked about is sort of how the values of the organization still function. He talked about working in a supply house. All of our apprentices start in the warehouse and learning parts that way, right? Or if we can't hire somebody, we send them to the supply houses and we get them jobs, and then we poach them later, right?
Yeah.
The suppliers don't love it, but that's part of the journey.
Yeah.
So a lot of that stuff's really foundational, and the clients that he started with, we still have. So it's
Incredible.
Yeah.
So from, you just outlined an incredible business, and I, of course, know a lot about your business. It's an awesome company. From that origin story, so there's a lot of things that happened there, including family business, passing it, management onto your son. I really relate with that, very much like my story. So I love hearing those sort of things. So, Brian, why don't you just tell kind of how you started to scale? Went from this one guy thing to then now we're at 30-some million bucks. Obviously, there's been a lot of scaling in between. So let's talk about that. And both of you guys feel free to share.
So basically, both Julie and I came from working class people. I never, I didn't miss a meal, but I always, if I needed a pair of runners or something, it would be a couple months before I would be able to get them. Or if we wanted to have a meal out or something, would be maybe every 3 or 4 months we'd get like fish and chips brought in or something like that. But so I always had this thing that I never want to be poor. So if I don't make money by lunchtime or make a difference in someone's life, even today, by lunch, I haven't fulfilled my goals. So it kind of gave me the tiger in the tank. So that's when I started selling ice cream. I sold the most Dickie D ice cream ever. And then it was like just driven, right? Just like, but I was always and then getting the cars and then getting the house and then getting going. So started with one truck being me and my wife doing the books, and she kept her job at the bank. So I started doing the government work, and I just like I rattled off at the beginning, I was working 7 days a week kind of thing, and continued on that for the first 2 years. And then so I was doing all this work every day. I had full load of work. And then also at the same time, at the shopping mall where my dad was, they just put a big renovation on the building, and they found that the original contractor forgot to seal the ductwork on like six office stories of ductwork. So I would go in there every night at 5 p.m. with an apprentice, and we would paint duct sealer on
Wow.
on all that. So at $50 an hour each. So it was like big money, right? And
That's awesome.
So I would get home at midnight, and then get up and then do my whole shift every day. And so about 3 years in, I got sick, and yeah, so I wound up with cancer, and was I had all this work, and we had about 2 guys by then. So I had to figure out how I was going to do the work. So my boss always taught me how to make a living with a pencil. So I knew that he used to hire a lot of subcontractors and get stuff done. So I talked to my brother, who's a firefighter, and he says, "Look, I got some guys at work that could help you while you're going through your treatment." So we hired a couple guys, and one actually became the fire chief in the end. But they helped me. I would get my treatment every day, and then I would go look at the jobs, and then I'd get my treatment at 5 p.m. And then they told you don't eat anything greasy, whatever. Well, the next morning my stomach just craved greasy food, so I would go and get a bacon egg sandwich and a milkshake and barf it up. But it would did that for 25 days in a row. But anyways, got through it. But it taught me that I could do
Wow.
stuff with other people helping me as
It was
a
like
team.
forced delegation. He learned how to delegate
Yeah.
because he couldn't work.
So
How long did that last? How long was your treatment?
Oh, it was like a period of probably 3 months of pretty intense stuff. And at the same time, this guy was conceived. And when I'm not supposed to be, I was like going through radiation. My wife went to the doctor freaking out, thought he was going to come out green, but he turned out.
That explains a lot about
It does.
Yeah, I did get zapped in there.
Yeah. So, but then we just kind of went. We would buy one. We started with our first truck. We paid it off, and we bought a second truck, paid it off, and we just started slowly like working with these commercial clients and got another one and another one, and I would be like I worked like crazy, and so I would do once a month. I have these crazy shifts, and I would go to work, and my office was same size as this studio here, and I would go to work at 6:37 that day, and I'd go and I'd have a whiteboard on the wall, and I'd meet up with. At this time, I'd got to about six trucks then, and but I'd have to get my bills done and quotes. So I would say to my wife, "I'll see you tomorrow." And so I would go to work the tools. Yeah, I had 7 trucks going, work the tools, and then I'd go in there about 4:30 or 5, open the window, put on my music, and I'd order a delivery, get a pizza delivered, and I'd work through the night and do all my bills and all my quotes and get it all lined out on the whiteboard. And then one of our managers who's been with us 30 years, Patty Allen, she would come in the morning, but I'd still be there in the morning. She'd come in, and then I would get the guys going, and then I'd go work another shift. Like
When did you
in the
sleep?
trucks. I didn't. And then I get home. I'd say, "Well, I'm quitting early today," so I go home like 4:30 that day, and then I'd have dinner and then go to bed. But so I did. So this is what was probably led me to the cancer for sure. But
That was, I'm sure there was a lesson in that too, right?
yeah, for sure. So yeah, definitely the stress side of it, and then you got to take care of yourself, or health is wealth, right? That's what I've learned in my later years.
So Connor, what was it like growing up in the family business?
Yeah, it was great. I'm sure you have a similar story, right? But I started when I was 14 with the company, and I didn't want to be a plumber. I didn't want to work for the company because I didn't think that anybody would ever, want to work for me, like the boss's son, right?
Yeah.
I just always felt this feeling like I'll just go somewhere else. I don't really want that
Yeah.
life. And the trades were different back then. People were mean, man.
Yeah.
Like we're very kind to the apprentices now.
Even Canadians were mean?
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Wow.
It was
Can't believe it.
you had to be tough. I learned a lot, but
Yeah.
I didn't want to be a plumber. So after I was like really bad at plumbing too. Like I can't even like hang anything straight. Like my wife hangs the pictures in my house. Like I can't do trades work. I'm not very
Yeah.
good at it. So I went to university and studied business, and also I studied psychology for a while too because I thought I was going to be a lawyer. So that turned out to be good
Sure.
in business, but yeah, no, it was something I didn't want to do, and then I met my wife, and I had this epiphany. She was a accountant, and she was like, "This is a really good business, like you going somewhere else isn't guaranteed, and you're gonna have to start from the bottom, and not that you can't do it, but like this is a really good business."
Yeah, what an opportunity.
Yeah, what are you
What an
doing?
opportunity.
Like, I'm like, I guess, yeah, you're right. So I came back at like 21, and I started doing sales, commercial sales, and had a lot of fun with it. I was a young guy, and so I could go to golf tournaments
Blast.
and, hockey
Wine and
games.
dine people.
Yeah, commercial sales is awesome. And we had a lot of fun. And then,
Country club, we call it.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then he discovered Nexstar, which is how you and I know each other, obviously. And he had always wanted a residential business. He'd done residential work for commercial clients, and people would phone us, and so we would run residential calls.
Sure.
But it wasn't structured or formal, or it wasn't a strategy. It was just kind of like you ran some of those calls. And we had like 30 employees at the time when we discovered Nexstar. And so Brian thought it was a good idea to convince everybody in the company that we're now residential contractors. and so he wanted every tech to be able to run service system.
Sure.
And we discovered that wasn't a good idea because it was hard to get the buy-in of a whole group, and they're all commercial plumbers, right? Like
Sure.
that's what they
Tough.
were. That's what they were good at. That's what they liked, and we were basically trying to get them to become customer-facing salespeople, almost, right? So it was really difficult. And so what we did was we hired an ops manager. His name was Ron, and he had owned a competitor in town, and he retired, and he came to help us get it off the ground. And he was like, "You're not gonna get these 30 people to buy into this. Like we have to break them off separately." And so him and I like grabbed our laptops and moved to a separate part of the building and just interviewed all the technicians for their personality types to see who could actually do this, and who was interested in it. And we picked like 3 or 4 guys, and one of our dispatchers, we brought her over as well, and set up a separate company within the company.
Perfect.
Yeah. That's
And
good.
how long ago was that?
That was like 2015.
Yeah, so I want to park there for a little bit because, as Nexstar like loyalists, I think we kind of both are. Like I started a little in the commercial, and then we through Nexstar learned maybe residential is our path. We had tried to train some commercial guys to do the residential. In the service system class, we had to fire one guy because he was going off the handle about how stupid of a system it was, like similar thing. And it's like, whoa, this isn't going to work. And really out of just like, I remember having this thing like, we either need to pick to be a commercial company or a residential company. I don't think we can do both. And we just went residential, and that's where we are today. I have so much respect for you guys, how you've been able to run both and have 2 successful sides of your business. There's really not a lot of companies that do that. I don't find a lot of companies that are good at both. And, knowing what I know about your business, I know you guys are, and you do them both really well, and you've been able to scale both of them really well. Talk about that and how the dynamics of commercial and residential work, and anybody who's thinking about doing both or going one or the other, like what would you tell them in that?
Yeah. I think there's a key difference between residential and commercial. Commercial, the sales cycle is so long. It's hard to it's hard to grow fast in commercial, but the customers are really sticky.
Yeah.
So like once you get one, like we have a 95% retention rate with
Wow.
our maintenance contractors.
And can we clarify quick? Commercial, when you say I'm a commercial plumbing or HVAC company, a lot of people think that means like new construction, build, or service. Where are you guys at in that?
Yeah, so we're maintenance, service, and like projects, we call it. So it'd be like install, right? But we do a little bit of new build, but not a ton. There's not a ton of, exposure there. We focus on HOAs, like multifamily is kind of our bread and butter. In our city, it's really dense. Like it's sort of like Seattle or San Francisco in terms of density. And so we have a lot of large towers. And so what we do is we sell them a maintenance agreement, similar to
Sure.
like a home plan, right? But we charge them quarterly, and we go and we do a full inspection of their mechanical system. We do, a thorough eval, put together options for them. They approve them, and we go.
I'm hearing a lot of service system in that.
It's super similar, right? That's why we really like it. You own the building. It's similar. You own the house, right?
Yeah.
The lifetime value is amazing. And so, yeah, it just there's a lot of synergies.
And we don't have to drive around place to place, so our windshield time gets reduced a
Some
lot.
more efficiency.
Yes.
Are your residential employees completely separate from your commercial? Would a residential employee ever be in a commercial location?
So there's some crossover in the sense that, we'll still work for some of the homeowners directly. Like we might install a heat pump for them or something like that, which is a good lead source for our residential business. From a capacity planning strategy, it's effective because sometimes if our installers are slow on residential and they've got some commercial projects they need to do, we can lend them over. A little bit of cross training that way. And then some guys, they just have a desire to change gears, and installers typically move over to commercial because their bodies break down. They get tired, crawling around in attics.
It's a really
and stuff.
good farm team for raising them up, so that they can go from department to department, and it's new and exciting. So they know that they have opportunities to move up and
I think
change their ways.
I think the reason why people are so afraid of commercial is because of the cash situation, right?
Receivables.
The receivables. It's for sure a concern. It can be a struggle. The fulfillment is also difficult, right? The parts are oddly specific. They're not stocked locally. They take a long time to get here. So, in residential, you can sell a boiler or a furnace and you install it tomorrow. In commercial, you sell a rooftop unit, you got to custom order this thing. It's like 8 weeks away. So there are differences, right? It's that's why it's harder to scale. And then the barrier to entry for technicians can be a little bit more challenging as well. Like you're dealing with huge liability from a plumbing perspective, right? Like you're working on, 3 or 4 inch water lines in a 20-story building. One of those lets go, like your business is over. Like you're out of business. Like if you don't have
Major
insurance,
responsibility
right?
and liability.
Yeah. So like, you got to make sure these technicians are really good at what they do. Not to say that residential technicians aren't great at what they do.
They can mess up less.
They can mess up less. It's just like a little bit less risky. So it takes longer to scale a team.
Yeah.
So like you couldn't start tomorrow and say, I'm going to, be a $20 million commercial business in 5 years. Like it's very unlikely that would work, but you could probably do that with the right residential team.
Probably.
And systems, right?
Okay. Wow. So let's talk about, I like on the podcast, we talk a lot about the financial, breakdown of different types of businesses. Residential versus commercial. Let's talk about like gross margins and how you look at that. My understanding has always been that commercial is going to be a little lower gross margin, but it's going to be a little lower overhead too. Whereas residential, higher gross margins, you can hit the 50% maybe plus, but then a lot of overhead for marketing and other things. Is that the reality, or talk through that?
It's if you were looking at like a purely commercial construction business, that would be true. But our margins are in the mid 40s for commercial
Really?
services. Yeah,
That seems really good. I don't know
yeah,
anything
it's
about
good.
them. Okay, and then are overheads lower than residential?
They're a little bit lower. You don't have the same marketing expenses, right? Like we spend less than 1% on
We've been
marketing, right?
We've been around for so long too, but we're actually going to go. We're looking into hiring. Like when we were meeting with you this morning prior to this meeting, I really think that having an outside marketing agency in the scale of business we have now, because the old days I'd say to Connor, hey, I want to sponsor the Zamboni over here. I want to sponsor
Zamboni. That's the
kids.
most Canadian
Yeah, that's
thing
right.
ever. First
Can
time
I say A?
that might be the first and only time Zamboni will ever be mentioned on this podcast.
There you go.
Love it.
But or a kid's baseball team over there, or we do so much sporting stuff, and you don't know what your ROI, and most of our stuff is done by heart.
Branding.
But when now we're actually getting granular in these businesses, and we want to help our community, but now maybe a marketing firm might be able to say to us, hey, do you know that neighborhood over there could really use your help, because
Sure.
it's
1%, 1% marketing spend
If
across
that.
businesses, across the residential and commercial.
No, just commercial.
Commercial's
Yeah, we're
1%.
like
Okay.
6, 7.
Still
on
low for
res.
And
but-
we do take care of, like this Friday night we have a private restaurant booked, and we have 20 people coming to the Ashton. It's the 7th annual Ashton
We
wine.
do like a wine night.
Wine
yeah.
night.
We take our top clients and we look at property management firms. We break them out and we
Yeah.
say, okay, these are the top 5 in terms of annual spend, and then we just have a massive
that's cool.
dinner and party for them, like individually.
Yeah, different
Wow.
firms
Once a
and,
year.
and but those are just like fun things. Like the next couple weeks, we're going to Mexico with like about 100 people. We do this every other year, and we underwrite it with similar businesses will come. So it might be a window cleaning company, could be electrical company, insurance. We all pool our money together, and we take them on a 1-week vacation to Mexico every year. So then we book dinners.
Literally
each
get
night.
the whole plane.
Yeah.
Insane.
Charter
Take
a
'em
whole
all.
plane.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
And-
you talk about stickiness. I mean,
Get to
I
know
know because
them.
it feels like every time we have a peer group Peabody call, you're like on a yacht, whining and dining people, or you're like in Mexico. I love it, man. That's so much different than residential business. But
Yeah,
talk about your
bigger
95%
Yeah.
retention of commercial customers. It's because you guys take care of
Become
them.
friends.
You have relationships.
Yes.
It's awesome. And
Yeah.
I think in the residential business, you don't really think about that. Like, it'd be cool to do that, but what are we gonna?
Yeah.
Have our few thousand service agreement members it's just different, it's different. But I think there's something you can take from that, right? I want to talk about Nexstar. I know you guys and groups like that. Brian, you were the president of the board of Nexstar for how long?
I was on the board for 7 years total. I was the chair for 2 years, and then stayed on 1 year as an advisor after. And it's been a really, really. I'm for a guy that got P for pass in high school to be able to make my way up to be on that board with all you smart people and people that are there. I felt very honored to be there and humbled and
you did a really good job. You did a really good job, and I've had a good look behind the curtain with my spot on the board, and it's very evident that you were great for that organization. So thanks for your service on that. I think that you probably have been to as many Nexstar events as anybody ever, right?
Well, I had some big shoes to fill with the previous chair, Phil Smitherman, before, but I did take it very serious. Also went out of my way. I would sit down every 3 months, and I bought this software program for anyone listening called sendoutcards.com. But I did, and I'd sit down and I would do a birthday card and an anniversary card for every employee of Nexstar. And then I made it my mission to go to all the staff functions and and just, I'd sit with them around the table, wouldn't have my lanyard on, sit around the table with the staff having breakfast in the morning, and getting to know a new grasshopper here and there, and talking to them, and then later on they'd come up and say, "You didn't tell me you're the chairman," and I said, "Well, you didn't ask."
That's awesome.
But I was just Columboing them all, and it was just like so great.
That's cool.
Unassuming.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So okay. So other than your time in that capacity at Nexstar, talk about the company and the impact that Nexstar and or any other best practice groups have had on your guys' business.
Well, I'll just start with, and then Connor can jump in. What happened? There used to be a trade show at McCormick Place in Chicago every year, a big ASHRAE show. Probably still goes there. It's the size of a football stadium at that convention center. And so I went to this show at McCormick Place, and there was a man with a blazer on in a corner, like a little table or whatever. And I went over, and it said QSC on his blazer. And I said, "What's that?" And he said, "Well, it's a group of plumbing and heating contractors from the PHCC, Plumbing and Heating Cooling Association, and they're service contractors." And I said, "Well, where's your booth?" And he goes, "Well, we don't have a booth." And he gave me his card, and so I got an email a week or two later from him.
Email back then?
Yeah, and they were having an event. They sent it by pigeon, but no, they were having an event in Toronto for QSC. So I'm moving houses that weekend from my house to another house on 136th Street there. And I said to my wife, I got to go to Toronto. She says, "Well, we're moving this weekend." And I says, "Well, I got to go. I got a feeling that I'm being called there." And she's like, "You're crazy." And I says, "Well, I'll get some movers and we'll phone my parents and brother and everybody, and they can help move. They'll understand."
That's a great idea for when you got to move. Hey guys, I got to go on a trip. You mind moving me?
Right. So I bolted to Toronto, and I got dress pants on, and I'm dressed up, and I go in this room. There's like 50 people there, all in suits, and there's a speaker up there, and they start talking, and you're hearing, "Well, dear man, put shoe protectors on." Nope. I got nope. And so all these people are making notes, so somebody hands me a piece of paper. So I start writing notes. And do you answer the phone the same way every time? Well, sometimes, kinda. Nope. Just kept going, and I'm at like 45 notes by coffee time at 9 a.m. So I go to the phone booth or whatever, and I phone my wife, and I go, "I don't know what's going on here, but I think it's a cult, but we're gonna join." And she goes, "Yeah, we'll talk about it when you get home." But that's when I jumped in right away.
And what was that organization?
That was called QSC. Okay. And that's kind of a smaller group than the it's kind of
he
a
got recruited away to Nexstar.
Yeah.
And he used to think that Nexstar was an even bigger cult when he would see them at different events.
Yeah.
And so then he was like, I'm not going to that cult. But then he figured out
They
that
got
they
you.
were,
Well,
they
we
were
had a trade show in St. Paul one time, and in the hall was I was working a booth. I wound up being board member of QSC first.
Dude, you just dive into stuff. I love it.
Let her rip, yeah.
I love it. You're all in.
Yeah, so I was like, so then Nexstar had a booth there. So I had my controller with me, and I said, "You go over and visit those guys. I can't be seen over there." So it turns out they're having an event at the Lawn Bowling Clubhouse in St. Paul.
Lawn bowling.
Yeah. So he went, because I couldn't be seen, because I was on the board of the other group. And anyways, he said, "This is great." So anyways, I went later in the night, and I met a few of the people. So the following...
Was this Contractor 2000 days, or was this Nexstar?
Just
I think they
Nexstar,
just
rebranded.
Jack Tester was at the helm?
Yes, and Bill Raymond was helping out all the
the
Lisa
legends.
White's, you name it, Susan Kimball, Susan
All the legends.
Tigner, you name it, Ed Carrier. So I found out that they're having a meeting in Nashville the next weekend. So I said to my controller, "I'll book just a couple tickets." We flew, and then we got in a private room before the super meeting started for the new members or the new prospects. Bill Raymond was teaching, and notepad out again, and it was like, "Well, do you guys do this for marketing, do this for marketing. Oh shit, we ain't doing any of this.
If you bring him to a class still, he's got like notes on all the AHA pages. Like,
Nice.
yeah, he's a
And I bring them home and I
do
bring
'em?
them to the team. Yeah, the to-dos get to done. I
hard
don't
part.
mess around. Yeah.
Okay, so then you joined Nexstar. You were all in, and
Yep.
what has it brought to your business?
it's the greatest gift for me, at least. Like, I was the one in charge of growing and scaling our residential business in the beginning,
Which that started around when?
like 2015, 16.
2015, and you're $13-ish million, and it's really good.
Yeah, no, it's been a good run. But I was basically alone running it. It was Ron, the guy who originally taught me. He retired again. I actually ended up hiring him back as a salesman like 4 or 5 years later, but I was just by myself. And so I wouldn't have been able to do it without Nexstar. Like, they give you the playbook, right? Like, they really helped me. Like, Jody Peter was my coach, and then Brittany Spencer, and
That's
like
great.
like
Great
all
coaching
these,
set.
yeah, they were awesome, and so they
great
basically
coaches.
taught me how to run the business. I just said, tell me what to do, and I'll do it. And so without them, I would have definitely not. We wouldn't have a residential business, like, for sure. We wouldn't have.
Wow.
Yeah, we wouldn't have succeeded. There's no way.
Wow. And I mean, some of my favorite part about Nexstar is this.
This is the best part.
It's the connections. That's how I know you guys.
Yeah.
Met you guys several times, and we started a peer group together. And you and I speak now once a month with a bunch of other guys who are all in it, similar size, similar type businesses, who are all trying to do the same thing, grow their business and grow it the right way, and grow it by empowering people and others. So that's what I love about it. I love the connections among all the other things that Nexstar and other peer groups bring to
You'll
the
have
table.
those connections for life.
Yeah.
The friends I have now, I could call any one of those people that I've met on the journey, and they would take my call, and they would say, "What do you need?
Yeah.
Like, how can I help?"
Yeah, they all let us into their shops. Like,
Oh
we
my
just,
gosh.
you just call when you're in any major city. You don't, maybe never even met the guy.
We literally just went to Peterman Brothers in Indy
Yeah.
2 days ago together, and we just asked, and yeah, no problem, come on in. Absolutely amazing site visit. I want to talk about the peer group. We call it a PBOD, Personal Board of Directors. That's like a term that's thrown around a lot at Nexstar, and it's kind of something Nexstar encourages is get a PBOD. I'd been in some other PBODs that were great, good guys, good groups in there, but they never really stuck. I think our group, and some of the groups I'm sure that you've been in, some of these legendary groups you hear about, of a lot of the legends, you've already mentioned some of them.
I'm waiting for somebody to die on one of them, because it's the top group, and they love me. They say, but their group is still full. But I'm just saying, Jack Tester, when you got room, I'm coming.
That is a good group.
Yeah.
But what's that meant to you? And if you want to chime in, Brian, if you've been a part of those things, like, and what would you encourage people to get in a group like that for?
Yeah, I mean, it's awesome, man. We came down here specifically because of our PBOD. I wanted to go to the wet show this year. We really want to get sewer and drains scaled beyond where we're at now, and I wanted to immerse my team. And I thought, well, Brady's like 2 hours away. Let's get Brady to come up. Seth came down too, and so just spending the whole week with great operators, collaborating with our team. They're just getting so much good value out of spending quality time together. Knowing somebody that goes through the exact same thing that you're going through, it's invaluable.
Yeah.
Like, you have no idea how great it is.
And you're meeting with people that sign the front of the check.
They understand.
The front of the check. I like that.
Yeah.
You know what? It's so easy when you go to, a super meeting or what. The connections are awesome, and you always get nuggets from other people. But it's like, hey, how's business? And, tell me about your business. Oh, great, this and that. And then you might get a nugget from it, you might not. This is like PBOD every month. We're going deep. Like, what's your exact percentage of onboarding rate for service agreements, opportunities? That's higher than mine. What are you doing better? Or every possible 1,000 other metrics. Like, we're going deep on those, good, bad, and ugly, encouraging each other on how to improve them, and then, like, pointing out the things we think are bad in our business, and hey guys, this is a problem I'm dealing with, help me. I mean, it's just like deep. There's not a lot of people you can do that with. You know, you're not probably going to do it with your competitors right here in your area. Maybe a lot of people are uncomfortable with that. So it's been completely invaluable for us. Been absolutely massive, and I can't thank you enough for everything you brought to the group, man. It's been really good.
No, I appreciate that. Yeah, I love you guys. It's it's awesome. Yeah, the friendships and being able to connect your team with other people too is super great, because sometimes people get tired of the coach's voice, like the coach's message kind of gets lost sometimes, and you know you can tell your team that an idea of how you want to do something, and most of the time they'll do it, but seeing somebody else doing it, you can have these sort of epiphany moments, or it really sinks in when you see somebody else do something. And so that's really powerful for me. And it's been a big part of my leadership is just being able to connect our leaders with other leaders, because they can really learn a lot from one another.
And you know, if you think about all the 5 guys in our PBOD, we all have different strengths and weaknesses. The strengths of our businesses may be the weaknesses of yours, and your strengths may be some things we struggle with. So just being able to combine those and all rise up together has been massive for our business. So I can't thank you guys enough for coming. I mean, I think that this record of the longest distance traveled to be on this podcast might stand for a while. Vancouver, I don't know that we're ever going to get somebody from further. So can't thank you guys enough, man. It's been really fun hanging with you all week, and looking forward to the rest of our day here. So thanks for being on the pod.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, and congratulations to you and your family on a great operation and all this work you guys do for your community. It's perfect.
Yeah.
Thanks so much, guys. It's awesome.
Thanks for tuning in this week's episode of Reimagining Home Services. We're super excited that we'll have 3 episodes every month come out. They're going to be on all your major platforms, Spotify, Apple, YouTube, and also leave a comment if there's a topic that you'd like us to cover.